Invoking the blessings of the divine and offering our salutations to Sadhguru Sri Madhusudan Sai. Respected elders, panelists, guests, brothers and sisters, Sai Ram, Namaste and good evening. Welcome to the concluding session of the Leadership Conclave 2023 presented by the Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence. What an invigorating day it has been, as we heard from experts and leaders from diverse backgrounds, ranging from sports to technology to business and even agriculture. They brought to the table rich experience and wisdom from their respective fields, held together by the single common thread of what it takes to be a good leader while being firmly rooted in one's value system. May we first request Sri B.N. Narasimhamurthy, Chancellor of the University, to give his closing remarks.
Most beloved Sadhguru, very dear Professor Anantharaman, Mr. Madanji and Sri Kantamurthy, brothers and sisters and very dear students, boys and girls. On behalf of the university, I express our gratitude to all the leaders in various spheres who graciously accepted our invitation, came here, inspired and enlightened our students and all of us with their talks and presentations, especially their experiences which were narrated were of great interest to our students. The day was quite long with 5 sessions on what Baba's definition of the various aspects of leadership: to be, to do, to see, to tell. And finally, we had a session on women in leadership. John Maxwell, a contemporary American thought leader, he gave the simplest definition of leadership, especially to our students. It's a marker. He said, a leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. A leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Those of us who have lived and worked with Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai and all of you, many followers of Sadhguru and devotees, and also students and teachers, as Michael Jackson said, greatest education to watch masters at work. Having seen Sadhguru, the way he works, the way he inspires, that is the greatest education and leadership for all of us. Because all great institutions are founded by great leaders. And what marks out great leaders, all great leaders, without exception, is courage and optimism. Courage and optimism are the two sides of the same coin. For example, courage is defined by Ralph Waldo Emerson, another great thinker, philosopher, American philosopher of the 19th, 20th centuries. He said, don't go where the path may lead you. Don't go where the path may lead you. Instead, you go where there is no path and leave a trail. That's what he said. And one example, don't go where the path may lead. Go where there is no path. Whoever thought of a free of cost medical college anywhere in India, whoever thought about it, establishing a private medical college. I was in the beginning of my very short engineering career, I was at Manipal. Dr. Madhav Pai, who built the Syndicate Bank and the whole township of Manipal, where today there are 26,000 students. He built the first medical college in India. He showed a way. Nobody had, but it's a self-sustaining medical college. You charge the students and parents and their parents and run the medical college. And now, see, that has to a great extent degenerated. I'm not talking about Manipal. I'm talking about the path he showed, creating self-sustaining medical colleges where education is so exorbitant that the doctors are demotivated to serve and they are motivated only to make money to repay the loans that they have taken for investment on education. Therefore, walk where there is no path. It requires great courage. Whoever in India ever thought, there are many great personalities in India and very, big corporates and multi-millionaires, multi-billionaires. Nobody ever thought we should start a free of cost medical college. Why I said, watching Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai is a great lesson in leadership because he was the first in India, whole of country, to think of a free of cost medical college, which really unnerved everybody. Therefore, courage is an important part of any leader. And optimism naturally comes from courage because Winston Churchill defined courage in a slightly different way by saying, courage is the ability to move from one failure to another without loss of enthusiasm. That is optimism. It is just moving from one failure to another failure without even expecting success in the next venture, without loss of enthusiasm, that same enthusiasm. Or Napoleon Bonaparte, he said, a leader is dealer in hope. A leader is dealer in hope. That's what he said. That way, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba and Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai are wholesale dealers in hope. That is what they do with everyone who comes to them, who came to them, who comes to them. Everyone comes with his problems, worries, concerns, and hope is given. So therefore, they are wholesale dealers in hope. But these are not material qualities. That is where our students will have to clearly understand. Courage does not come from faith or confidence in one's muscle power. Definitely not. Courage does not come with one's faith in one's intellectual or mental abilities. No. It comes from faith in spiritual abilities. Because suppose you are very physically powerful and intellectually powerful, there may be somebody else who is more powerful than you. Only in spiritual ability and spiritual possibility, everyone is equal. Nobody is better than the other. Therefore, we have to understand that real courage and real optimism come from spiritual insight. And what is a great institution? All great institutions are founded by great leaders. What is a great institution? How do you define a great institution? A great institution is that which does greatest good for the greatest number of people. It is not only for social service organizations or charitable organizations. Even for organizations in business, commerce, industry, any field, this is the truth. Contextually, this is the truth. Unless you have the greatest good of the greatest number of people in your mind, a leader cannot build an organization which is going to be eternally successful. See, nothing is eternal in this world, I do understand, but at least substantially, something, like a meteoric rise and a downfall, sudden downfall. See, that is not an institution. Therefore, a greatest institution should do the greatest good to the greatest number of people. What greater example than what Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai is doing? Greatest good to the greatest number of people. The scaling of goodness. See, this is a very important thing. See, goodness, suppose you're confined to small endeavors. You will do some good to some people. But that scaling requires this courage and optimism. And that comes, you see that when I say spiritual ability in the simplest terms, of course, the modern people may say it is old-fashioned. It is just faith in God and nothing else. Okay, for modern people, you say self-awareness, because maybe they will understand it better or appreciate it better. Truly, it is nothing but this. Because Baba said, where there is faith, there is no fear. Where there is fear, there is no faith. As simple as that. If you develop strong faith, steady faith in God who is inside everyone's heart, courage natural. And then when you have that faith, there are two more important qualities of a leader which emerge. One is equanimity, and second is intuition. Intuition is most important for any leader. Without intuition, nobody can become a great leader. Now, where does it come from? It comes from your faith in God, achieving some kind of purity of mind, and you are able to get from within yourself solutions to the problems, day-to-day problems or even bigger problems, you can easily solve. See, this is where that faith in God, faith in your own divinity, will make you the greatest of leaders. How did Mahatma Gandhi become a great leader? Anybody greater than Mahatma Gandhi as a leader with that kind of following, with that kind of mass appeal? Any leader more powerful than Swami Vivekananda? Any leader more powerful than Abraham Lincoln? All of them were rooted in deep spirituality. Therefore, our boys and girls, very, very important. There is a book written by General Chiba. which Professor Anantharaman knows very well, on leadership as described by Bhagavan Sri Sat Sai Baba. Very, very small book. And I think it should be a textbook of leadership in our institutions. With these words, I conclude and pray to Sadhguru to take over this question and answer session with his benedictory address. Thank you very much.
May we now invite Mr. Madan Padaki, founder and CEO of OneBridge, to give us a roundup of today's conclave. Mr. Madan Padaki is passionate about empowering youth and rural entrepreneurs, and his organization received national acclaim and praise from the Honorable Prime Minister of India for its good work last year. Mr. Madan Padaki, please.
Thank you. Pranams, Sadhguruji, and my namaskara to everybody here. It's such an honor and a delight to be here. And sir, that was the best masterclass I've ever heard in 10 minutes on leadership. You know, kudos. Frankly, all this afternoon, you know, I run an enterprise. The fear that you're talking about, we have about 3,000 employees, and we're having a challenge, as usual, that entrepreneurs face in figuring out how do we pay them. So all of this afternoon, I was trying to figure out salary day is coming in a few days. Where do I organize money to pay? It's still not happened. But sitting there and listening to you, I felt a wave of calmness just descend on me and saying, I'm sure all of you have seen the movie where Amir Khan goes, all is well, right? And I felt that saying, all is well, everything will be fine, you're in safe hands. Thank you, sir, for sharing such a wonderful nuggets of wisdom in such a short time. And as I was sitting again there reflecting from the morning, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I'm sure there are many Harry Potter fans here. And Harry Potter asked Dumbledore, what is the difference between me and Voldemort? We seem to have the same abilities, same skills. Will I ever turn out to be like him? And Dumbledore, in his very wise way, says, it is the choices that we make that matter, and you're here to make the right choices. In your opening address, Sadhguruji, you spoke about decisions that we take. It's about the choices that we make that define us as leaders. And I think that set the tone for the whole day. What are the choices? Because there are dilemmas in every moment, every minute, every day that we face. It is the choices that we make that differentiate us from good leaders and great leaders and leaders themselves, right? And that set the context for the day. We had the first session on To Be, chaired by Professor Anantharaman. Mr. Lakshmi Narayan spoke about the 4 R's: respect, resilience, relevance, and reinvention. When coupled with positive perspective, how can you change a bleak field to one brimming with hope? Mr. Kamal Bali had another lovely acronym. He called it as the ECO, E-C-C-O, empathy, courage, care, and optimism. And, you know, go where there's no path and leave a trail, and eco will be your companion as you do this. Dr. Neil Hawkes spoke very passionately about ethical leadership, the ability to connect with other human beings from the heart, and how wisdom and authenticity are the key qualities of an inspiring leader. And I had a wonderful conversation learning from each one of them, where I talked about the principles of Swadharma, Sthitapragnate, Ahankara, Karma Yoga, and Sharanagati from the principles of Bhagavad Gita, and how that defines us all as leaders. To Be was a very interesting conversation that we had in the morning, and I just wanted to end this with a short story that I was thinking about in the morning, that there was a monk and his disciple who was walking in a forest, and the monk sees a bunch of crabs that are drowning in water. He goes, picks up each crab and tries to rescue them. And the crab, as they want to, keeps stinging the monk. But the monk keeps persisting and tries to save the crabs. And the disciple asks, Sir, why are you continuing to do that? You're getting hurt, your hands are bloodied. Why do you continue to do that? And he says, to save the crabs is my swadharma, to bite is its. Right? Just because I should not be responding to its swadharma, I have to stay true to my dharma. And I think that's the core essence that we got from this whole morning's, the first session of to be. How do you be an authentic leader with your own purpose? And how do you define this purpose to drive everything that we do? The second session of To Do was chaired by Mr. Dinanath. We had Mr. Mohit Narula, who spoke about how do you find innovative solutions to achieve leadership and with a social purpose in the services industry. So connecting innovation to leadership, to social, and finally to a service. We had our rock star, Somdev, who was here with us this morning. He spoke about 3 fundamental ground rules of being a student always, treating every day for what it is, and doing what you do for the love of it. It couldn't define his journey any better. And Mr. Ranjan Chak spoke about, as a leader, how do you admit mistakes? How do you treat everyone equally, respecting others' time? And all these while climbing the ladder without compromising on any values. Again, to end the to-do session summary with a story that's again very close to my heart. To do means you have to stand up and be there as a leader. Again, the story goes that when a mother approached Gandhiji saying, can you please advise my son to give up eating this particular type of sweet because he's very addicted to it, Gandhiji told her, come next week. So she came back the next week with the same issue. And Gandhiji then looked at the kid in the eye and said, please stop eating sweets. So the mother was perplexed. She said, why did you have to ask me to come after a week? You could have told me the same thing last week. And Gandhiji replied, no, I was also in a way addicted to some sweets. I had to give it up first before I could advise others what to do. And that I did over the last 1 week, and therefore I can say with conviction to your son that you please give up on these sweets. To me, that is the to-do leadership, right? And how do you be the person that you want the world to see? The third session on to see was chaired by Gitanjali. We had Mr. Mamadou Tore, who talked about taking everyone along the African philosophy of Ubuntu, that how can I be happy when others are unhappy? It's a way of being, it's a way of life. I am because we are. I think it's such a powerful message in the philosophy of Ubuntu. Mr. Aaron talked about how do you see the strengths to tackle the weakness? How do you, in that equilibrium, to see beauty and every weakness as a handicap that can be overcome with the right environment and encouragement. So basically the yin and yang of the good and the bad, how do you balance both of that, and how do you overcome your weaknesses by leveraging your strengths? Mr. Rajesh Babu talked about setting a clear purpose, aligning everyone to that purpose, keeping the dignity of every employee, and leading to a happy team, a happy organization, and a happy society. Ms. Mariel spoke about seeing all perspective, that happiness is a decision where joy is an action. I love that sentence. And it's just a matter of deciding to be happy and then doing those actions to be happy. To see, I'll end again with a very small anecdote that when Nelson Mandela took over as the first black president of South Africa, the first team that he supported was the Springboks team, which was largely a white team that was playing rugby. And he said, the only way I can unite the nation is with love, not with hate. Right? And that played a massive role in the healing of South Africa. The same story plays out when Gandhiji was arrested by General Smuts in South Africa. His parting gift from the jail was a pair of sandals that he made with his own hands for General Smuts. And General Smuts said, that changed my life forever. So how do you deal with love and compassion and see people for who they are, beyond their ego, beyond their personalities, and connected at a level of being, I think is the true quality of a leader. The last session, the fourth session, convened with the session theme to tell. Mr. Amit Sharma, Mr. Indu Shekhar spoke about finding harmony with oneself, choosing the best for you and to do it. In that self-interest, selfless service will propel. So it's an interesting combination of what I call as the enlightened self-interest. Mr. Amit Sharma talked about empathy at a level of understanding perspectives of everybody else and connecting at a deeper level to what we spoke to in the previous session. Mr. Nikhil Day talked about human-to-human interactions and intersections between human being and human doing. And he said the bottom line is kindness, creativity, and innovation. Kindness is the key. Mr. Narayana spoke about a very interesting acronym of RIGHT: recognize, incentivize, growth, health, and TS terminology. He advised replacing and imposing commanding terms with gentle and inclusive ones, which will yield the best outcomes. No story can end without a story of our beloved President, Dr. Abdul Kalam. And he spoke about in the To Tell that how when he as a young scientist led a team that made a space mission go AVRI and plunge into the Bay of Bengal, they were petrified to face the media. The legendary Satish Dhawan said, you know what, you guys get out of the way, I'll face the media, and he took the entire blame for the failure. The team came back a few months later and did a very successful launch, and Satish Dhawan then said, you guys go face the media, I'm at the background. Isn't that such a wonderful example of To Tell on how to be with your teams, where you're empowering the teams by your own actions to say that I'm here for you when you fail, but when you succeed, I'm clapping from the back, and I'm applauding all your efforts from the back. I think these are lovely lessons that were shared today. The last session, the fifth and final session, was on a panel that brought together accomplished women from across the world. Ms. Kristen Engwig, my dear friend Prerna Langa, Dr. Snehal Donde, and Dr. Kiran Mai, who talked about the power and the space that we need to create for women leaders to emerge. And how do we as a society recognize and build and ensure that the ethics in leadership and the sharing of power as a leader has very much an equal role for women in corporates and society and the world. It's been a fascinating day. I think we should do this in every university, in every education institution, and in every corporate. This must be the central conversation. I'm glad we started out in this holy Punya Bhumi here in Muddenahalli, and look forward to a lot more interesting dilemmas that we face, which I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, Sadhguru, on resolving certain dilemmas that we face using the principles that we learned today. Thank you so much for you all.
Thank you, Mr. Madan Padaki. A token of our love and appreciation to Mr. Madan Padaki. Sadhguru, Professor Anantharaman wanted to share a few words as a mark of gratitude. Professor Anantharaman, the conference chair, please.
You've earned it.
Oh, sorry.
I have been speaking all day, therefore I shall be very brief. It has been a long day with very many wise sayings for very many people. It will take us all a while to digest, internalize, consolidate. When it answers several questions, it also raises a few questions. And that's what management and leadership is all about. It's not about finding answers, but asking the right questions. And these questions we will answer as we evolve ourselves. That is exactly what it said. On reflection, perhaps there is only one area where we need to concentrate a little more. How do we convert this whole concept of leadership and communication to the new generation? I think the current generation is called General Alpha. The next one will be General Beta. They are going to be more logical. I have two grandsons. When I told my age to my first grandson, he waited for a few seconds and said, "Did you start from one?" He was surprised how one can be that old. And when I told my second grandson, "You are not leading your lesson properly," he said, "What should I? I can Google everything." That's a new generation. That's the generation beta. How do we convey all these concepts to that generation? Because they're going to be the leaders tomorrow. Swami's education system is an excellent model, Bal Vikas. Maybe we need to strengthen Bal Vikas and create leadership right from that point of view. And there's one point I want to make which is absolutely essential, which is the main purpose why I demanded to speak here. I was not an invited speaker. When Bhuvanar sent me the original proposal about what is being planned to do, I told him it's impossible. You are trying to do 3 days job in 1 day. And the team achieved it in such outstanding manner. I have seen so many conferences, participated in so many of these leadership conferences themselves. I have never seen so much being done in that way. Outstanding work by this team. I know this team doesn't expect kudos, expect appreciation, but what they have done today, the whole team, Bhuvanar and their team, is something near impossible. That's the main purpose of my being here. I want to quote Churchill to them and say, "Never have so many people learned so much by the effort of so few." Thank you.
Our heartfelt love and gratitude to Professor Anantharaman, the conference chair. Thank you so much, sir, for all your support and advice throughout the last few weeks. Sadhguru has very graciously agreed to take a few questions and clarify any doubts. Sadhguru, throughout the sessions, there were many, many questions that came up. In fact, countless chits were passed backstage, and we have tried our very best to compile all of them, common themes, and some of the pertinent questions. The first question, what is the difference between a good leader and a great leader?
I think a good leader leads from the heart, and a great leader leads largely from the head. Let me elaborate a bit for the students, you see. You see, leaders have been bestowed upon with the primary responsibility of guiding, inspiring, as Narasimhamurthy said just now, knows the way, shows the way, goes the way. So there are many types of leaders out there, and I believe leadership can be of three kinds. One is very instinctive leadership. They are born leaders, they just know what to do, but largely driven by instincts, survival instincts. Just now, our Madan Padki was having it a while ago. I think he's restful now. But there are other instincts, there are crises to manage. You suddenly plunge into action, and many things you do off the cuff. And there is an instinct of leadership in them, a streak of leadership guides them sometime. But many times we go wrong because they're done out of fear or out of force or out of compulsion. So sometimes instinctive leadership can go wrong. Then there are leading from the intelligence, that is the head, which is what great leaders do. They study the market, they study what's going on, they understand their people, their strengths and weaknesses. They understand all the other aspects of leadership, and then they make a decision, a choice, by weighing the outcomes and consequences. And then they also have the ability to guide the team as to how they're going to implement whatever the vision is. So they largely lead from the head, but then most of the profit-driven organizations are led by head. However, there is one more leadership which is to lead from the heart, which I call leadership from the intuition. Every person is bestowed upon with this intuition, and that is something that is a divine connect within. It is different from instinct, appears like one, but it is different because this intuition does not have the ego and the doership and the anxiety and the fear of the instinctive leaderships. It also is different from intelligent leadership, which it may appear as sometimes as intelligent leadership, but then you know that some of the insights that you have had while guiding from your intuition were not possible by reading about leadership books or by discussing the ideas with many people. It is something from somewhere else. It just comes to you when you have pure intentions to do good to everyone. So this intuitive leadership is the leading from the heart, and that leadership is what going to make people good leaders. The other two can make great leaders nevertheless.
Sadhguru, many of the corporate leaders were asking that it becomes difficult to practice spirituality when the corporate environment is so profit-oriented. How can we exist in such an atmosphere without compromising on values?
See, profit is what drives the organizations to do what they do. Without having profits in place, you cannot run an organization, you cannot pay salaries, you cannot do anything good. No good to the society can be done by them. So profit is not the problem, but profit at what cost is the problem. So profit at the cost of people, profit at the cost of the planet, profit at the cost of all other principles is not a good profit. That's all we have to take care of. So he talked about Swadharma in Bhagavad Gita. So also Sri Krishna says, there are 4 kinds of people in the society who have been kind of endowed with different kinds of responsibilities based on their abilities, their guna. So Sri Krishna calls it as guna dharma. So Vaishya dharma, which is to do business and generate profits by utilizing the societal resources, is also a dharma. It is not a dharma. But the question is how much profit and at what cost? That is the ethical dilemma which most of the leaders face because they are under pressure of stock market or bottom line or top line or keeping the share prices up. But whatever they do, they have to know that in the long run, anything done by sacrificing principles has never sustained. Always those organizations, we have had many examples and stories also, where ethics were compromised, the organizations eventually collapsed. And that damage to the organization, the reputation, and the people who were dependent on the organization is far more than sacrificing a little bit of profit now and leading a more austere or a little uncomfortable life at this point of time for the organization is better than plunging them into a valley of darkness at some point in time. So in the long term, only people who have managed to stick to the ethics and never compromise the principles have actually survived. So the long-term vision demands that, and a good leader, as I said, not the great leader, will definitely understand this and will not sacrifice the ethics and principles for the sake of short-term gains.
What kind of culture should we aim to cultivate as leaders in our respective organization, and how best can we cultivate this?
I always say culture is nothing but concern for others. If we are concerned about others' welfare, others' happiness, others' goodness, then we are truly a cultured organization. So our culture or any organization's culture should be driven by a genuine concern for everyone in the organization. Starts from the top management till the last person on the shop floor. We should be concerned about them, about their welfare. Any policy decision, any changes, anything that we do in the organization should be taking into account the welfare of everyone. You cannot sacrifice somebody at the bottom, or of the pyramid or hierarchy just because they seem to be insignificant. They can make a lot of difference. And I was listening to some of these stories, and I believe the story from what came from, I think, Mr. Dev, which was about the hotel industry, the hospitality industry, that how a person replaced the toothpaste of somebody, a customer, which was not a part of his job, but he made a big difference to what the perception of the hotel was. So the idea is that culture of concern. He was concerned if this client's or this customer's toothpaste gets over, tomorrow he will struggle to have a brush or whatever. He'll have to go out of his way to buy this from a shop, which is a waste of the time, resources of this particular executive who has many busier things to do. So that concern that organization has for the people, the same thing people show for their client. That's why I always look forward to the feedback in our organization from the guests. And today I happen to meet quite a few guests who have come for the first time. And everybody said in a single voice that the kind of love, affection, the warmth, and the concern that the people here have shown, from everybody, from the taxi driver who drove them to this place and back, to the students or the caretakers or the hosts who were handling or looking after them, to everybody else. So our organization's culture is about concern, and how do you teach this culture? By actually living that culture. And you are concerned, you show that concern, you do everything out of concern for everybody. This shows, and that kinds of rubs on to everybody in the organization. And this is the most important thing. If every organization in the world, profit-making or non-profit making, develops this culture that they are concerned about everybody in whatever they do, I think that would be a great way of leading the organization, and this culture will definitely get passed on to everyone till the last level.
Sadhguru, as a leader, the team looks up to the leader, and one must always project an image of confidence and strength to the organization. How can this be maintained if the leader is undergoing personal struggles and the team is relying on the leader?
Madan Patki, you want to answer that? See, leadership definitely gets colored by somebody's personal values and personal prejudices. That's possible. But that's what a leadership demands, that you have to rise above your personal prejudices, your personal ideas, your individuality, and do what is good for everyone. That is what we're telling in the morning. How do you make decision as a leader? You make a decision which is good for all, not because you want it or you like it or this is what is good for you, or good for a few who are your favorites in the organization. It's not that way. It's for everybody. Last person should benefit out of this. So a leader has to be very detached. If detachment is not there, a distance is not there, a kind of a witness feeling is not there to every decision that the leader makes, then his personal biases will kind of cloud his judgment and distort all the leadership. That's why our Narasimhamurthy ji said just now, spirituality is very important. That teaches us to do things right all the time without clouding it with our personal biases and prejudices. So a spiritual leader alone is capable of looking at things from a distance, developing some sense of detachment from everything that he does, and then being able to make the right decisions. And that is something that, again, we should teach the modern day leaders, that they have to develop. And again, I'm not confusing spirituality with religion. I'm not talking about they go to temple and do these rituals and things like that. That may help. These are all the methods and means. But the concept is that they develop some kind of, now in Narasimhamurthy ji's terminology, self-awareness, where they're coming from which angle or which point of view they're approaching that issue. And that has to be for the greater good or welfare of all, without personal prejudices and biases. And that is something that every leader has to learn.
How does a leader ensure inclusive participation of his stakeholders to strive for a common purpose?
I think communication is very important. What you communicate to your people, how often you communicate, with what intensity and honesty you communicate, that will get people on board. And so most of the leaders are so busy doing the next thing that they have no time to look around and connect and communicate with their own people. And that's where they miss helping the people understand what is going on. Sometimes in this fast-paced world, we make decisions very fast. Even here, we make sometimes decisions very fast. But once we have won the trust of the people by having communicated enough in the past, it's difficult to suddenly take a decision and not take everybody along. Then the stakeholders are left behind, confused. They do not understand, even if you do the right things for their sake, but because they are not capable of foreseeing like you, they get confused, and then you lose the support of everyone and people become unhappy. So in our organization also it happens. Sometimes I have to make very fast decisions, like a surgeon in the theater, right? He has no time to go and explain the whole thing to somebody when the patient has gone into some kind of a cardiac arrest midway through the operation. He has to make some decisions. That time he has to make decisions. There is no way of taking all the stakeholders along. But at that point in time, he's doing with an honest feeling, and he has won the trust of everybody, including the patient. So even if he makes the decision without communication, it goes well. However, in general, communication timely and effectively and intensely, in the sense honestly, has to be done. And this communication is key. No communication is miscommunication, and that's how you lose your stakeholders. So carrying everybody along with good communication, to tell part of it, is very important to bring everybody on board.
As a follow-up, if we find it very difficult to make decisions, especially when the outcome may be unpleasant for others, how can we overcome that hesitation?
I think we have answered that. How do you make decisions which is good for everyone, not for you, not for him, not that it's pleasant to you or unpleasant to somebody. That's not the way how leaders make decisions. That is what is called as dharma. The real dharma is to do what is right in all circumstances, whether you like it, I like it, or somebody likes or does not like it. I do not yield to those pressures. We do what is right for everyone, and that is something you do it from, as I said, by centering yourself into this value that I am here to make the right decisions for everyone. Then you will grow beyond these preferences.
As leaders, how can we know when it's time to start delegating some responsibility to others? And what perspective can help us if we struggle to surrender some of that control, especially when we feel that they may not be in sync with our ideas?
Yeah, one word that I really don't like in the definition of leadership is controlling. I think there's directing, controlling, but controlling is not the right word. Rather, you inspiring, motivating, or enabling, empowering. These words could have been used. Maybe in those days these were not existing. A new definition needs to be written when you empower and enable your people. So a leader is the one who creates the next generation of leaders. He should not be leader forever. He should find ways to exit as soon as he has the next generations of leaders ready. And if any organization says that this leader stayed forever and he did everything like they tell about me, I feel terrible and guilty about it, because I feel that it should be everybody's effort and everybody should have risen, and of course it takes time. So how do you know when you have to give up the control and when you should? See, in old time there was this saying, even in Ramayana it is mentioned, that when Dasharatha was about to drink a glass of water and his hand shook or shivered in the night, and then he decided that he should give up the throne because he can't even hold a glass of water. How can he fight a battle or rule the kingdom? So he called for the ceremony to crown the next king. But that was in those days. But we should not wait till our hands and legs start shivering and shaking. That was for the kings of the past. But we have to think like this. Whenever we find somebody, see, leaders have to be humble. Somebody told humility also should be a part of leadership. When you see somebody more capable than you, I think you should let go. When you think somebody can do a better job than you, I think you should let go. This holding on and hanging on and controlling is a very bad idea that destroys organizations. I've seen many organizations collapse because of this idea. So when do you know when to delegate? When you find the next person more capable than you. When you see that they're doing an honest job and a sincere job, and who has achieved that? You only have achieved that because you have spent time with them, you have trained them, you have developed them, you have enabled them, empowered them, so they can take over from you. I think a leadership, the moment he gets into the seat of leader, should start succession planning, should start his exit strategy the moment he enters. That is the way leader should be. And don't be afraid of giving away control. If you're a real good leadership, you will never lose respect. You may lose control of things, but you will never lose respect of people. That's more important than control. They will still come back to you to seek your advice, your guidance, and you still will feel very good about mentoring them, guiding them, or directing them as the case may be. But you don't have to control anybody. And I sincerely feel this next generation is 10 times smarter than the previous generation. Just now Anantaraman was telling, So if somebody could be leader at 50 in the previous generation, this generation is capable of being leaders in 20s. So the 50s, we will have to really pay attention and listen to what's happening on the ground and make way for the next generation quickly. Otherwise, you will stifle them, you will demotivate them, you will frustrate them, and the world will not be as good as it should have been. So I think leaders have to develop this idea of letting go, and you have to prepare the next generation of leaders for that. It doesn't happen on its own. And the most painful, I think, part of all the leadership is training and development, developing the next one, because human beings are unpredictable. You do not know what you taught will work tomorrow or whether they will take it in the right spirit. But that is the pain that you have to undertake as leaders to prepare the next generation and let go of the control. And this is a piece of advice to our organization at this point in time.
How can a leader strike a balance between loving and retaining discipline?
I think loving itself is a cause of the real discipline. See, discipline by force is one thing, and discipline from source is another thing. Most of the organizations try to achieve discipline by force, by putting a code of conduct and punishing or rewarding people for that. But when we love, we are capable of eliciting discipline from the source. People are disciplined because they love the leader, they love the organization, they love the culture, And out of love, they are disciplined. They do not do anything that harms the culture or brings disrepute to the leader. So loving itself is a way of disciplining. I do not see a dichotomy over there. As long as you truly love your people, people will do everything that is right, and they would never bring disrepute to the organization or to the leader. And that discipline from source will stay forever. And that is the permanent way of disciplining people.
Sadhguru, we had a very special session centered around women and leadership. And you are a champion of women's empowerment and giving equal opportunities to women. Please advise how women can stand up for themselves in unfavorable situations when their voices are not being heard, even if they are in the right.
I think now there are many ways of women to make their voices heard. It's not like you have to physically be around, but you can speak in so many ways. Communication channels are different than that. But what you're meaning is when they are not being given their due, or they're not being heard intentionally, then what do the women do? I think the biggest strength of a woman is self-confidence. If you really have the self-confidence in whatever you're doing, whatever you stand for, whatever you're trying to achieve, world will sit up and take note of it sooner or later. You don't have to scream on the top of your voice, because truth does not need to be shouted. It should be spoken. And whenever you speak the truth with complete conviction in what you're doing, it will be heard. And I'm sure there will be people who will definitely listen to what you're trying to say and give you your attention that you deserve. But women most of the time lose self-confidence. They lose the confidence when they are not able to do that. I've seen in our girls also many times they come with, I think of them as lionesses. But sometimes they come because of bogged down by the circumstances, the environment, the cultural burden that they carry from their villages, and they lose their confidence. At that point, I only tell them, see, you believe in what you're doing, you believe in your confidence, and you will be able to convey what you have to convey. And I had this example, I must quote this. There was this girl, she's sitting and smiling at me from there. I was walking this way, and this girl was shedding tears. I asked what happened, and she said, my parents are not allowing me to continue my education. I said, what is the problem? Because it's all free, there is no burden. No, my parents want me to get married, they think I'm too old now. So you're just finishing your graduation, you must continue to pursue your post-graduation. And then she said, no, I'm not capable of talking to my father, my mother is scared of father, my sister is scared of father, none of us can speak to him. That's how it has been always. He's a loving father, but very particular about this, and nobody can speak. And then, I had to raise my voice. I said, did I raise kittens over here, or did I raise lionesses? What are you talking to me? I'm not going to give you any advice. It is now up to you to fight your battle. I'm not going to fight for you. Find a way. Talk to your father. Convince him. And I'm so glad what she did was, see, I said truth need not be screamed from the top of the mountain. It can be whispered and it will still be heard. And what she did, she recorded a message on WhatsApp, put a nice music behind, very soothing, in a pure, chaste Kannada, which father would appreciate. And so beautifully, I always give them this thing about Namakam, Chamakam. Namakam, this all comes from our Rigveda. This is a stuti of Shiva. First, you calm down as an angry Shiva by chanting praises. You are so good, you are this, you are that. And then do your Chamakam. I want this, Chamchame, Mayashchame, give me this, give me that. So I told, always approach your elders, especially those who can get irritated quickly, with this Namakam, Chamakam strategy. And she applied that. First she did the Namikam. Very beautifully in Kannada, she wrote, our father, Father, you have done so much for me. You have been such a loving father. You have been so kind. And after halfway through, the Chamakam starts. So please allow me, I have come this far. This is a little more journey that I have to undertake. Please allow me to do this. Very sweetly she spoke. The result of it, she's sitting there doing her post-graduation. So a woman's voice will be heard if it's true. Even if truth can be whispered and it will be heard forever, for very long distance. And it's only the lie that needs to be, told by screaming and shouting. And this is one real example. And yesterday when she came to take the certificate from me, she quickly took that one moment to tell me that her father was there in the crowd.
Sadhguru, our final question. How can a leader remain true to their purpose without being carried away by challenges?
You have to believe in yourself. You have to be. That is the be all and end all of all leadership, is to be what you believe in. And that's where all things begin. And as long as you believe that what you're doing is right, you're convinced about it, even if you're a Hitler and you believe in the wrong things, you are still successful, you see. So it's only belief. If you believe in good things, you can make a big difference to the world. So believe in what you're doing. Don't give up under what others say, what they think, what's happening. Like there might be other pressures, but just stay true to the purpose. Be the purpose that you wanting to others to follow. And that is what has made us successful. We were taught by Baba, believe in selflessness. In fact, I'll close with this. He told me that you have to do 3 things, and I keep telling the children. He told me that believe in the power of goodness and selflessness. You will definitely succeed. And he told me, put the onus on me. He said, as long as you are selfless, nobody can stop this work. So everything boiled down to the selflessness that I had to carry in my heart. And that was a big responsibility, because you can tend to be selfish, but there is no scope, there is no opportunity to be selfish over here. And he told me, be selfless, be fearless, and be shameless. When it comes to doing good, don't be afraid, don't be ashamed, don't be selfish. Just do it with pure intentions, and the result is there for all of us to see. While Madan says, what's going to happen next month and how are we going to do that? Madan, we share that dilemma all the time. This is one thing that's common between us. I also worry, how are you going to run the next month and the next month? But I tell you, at this point of time, I can, with my hand on my heart, I can tell you, I have faced challenges, we have faced challenges collectively, but every time we have come out clear, we have come out with flying colors actually, because we believed in the power of goodness, and something happens somewhere and things keep rolling. So if we haven't stopped so far running a purely charitable organization which does not charge even a rupee to anyone, and spent for the corporate guys who are here, to spend more than 200 million US dollars in the last 10 or 11 years, which started with nothing over here. It's only because of the power of goodness. And that is our belief. We believe in selfless good, and we believe that has all the power to do it. So we never swayed from this. And we have always stuck to our guts, our conviction, and we have always succeeded because of that. So that belief is a must for a leader to pursue.
Our deepest gratitude to Sadhguru Sri Madhusudan Sai for clarifying these doubts. And with that, we conclude the Leadership Conclave 2023. Thank you all.
I have one last word. I must have that. For the children, see, you have got a wonderful platform. What an opportunity to listen to such eminent leaders from around the world, from various fields. A lot of effort. It's a labor of love that was put in by Anantaramanji, Bhuvana, Vidushini, and the entire team who have organized this. And the only way you can pay your debt of gratitude to them is by not forgetting whatever Tejasvinamadhi tamastu mavid vishavahi. Remember what has been taught. And what is our methodology? Yajnavalkya teaches Maitreyi, his wife, about the knowledge of self, and gives her 3 tips before he leaves to the forest. Shrotavyam, Mantavyam, Nididhyasitavyam. Listen to it, contemplate on it, and practice it. Only then this knowledge becomes yours. Otherwise, it's a borrowed knowledge which will disappear after some time. So if you want to make it yours, make notes, read them. And if you have any more questions during the next 20 days or whatever, when we are doing Bhagavad Gita workshop, you can even put these questions in. But I want everybody from the junior class which are here to the university postgraduate students, please take notes and contemplate on this and see. I will take these 10 values of leadership from this particular conference, and I will try to apply like this. What is the strategy that you have? What is the plan you have? Please draw a plan for yourself. A purpose and a plan based on the principles of leadership is a must to make the most efficient use of this wonderfully organized conclave. All that was covered within a day. It's a great effort, and I think it's another model how to conduct conferences. That's what you have brought forward, and I'm sure this will help many more generations of people. So a lot of gratitude to everybody who has participated and made this a success. Thank you very much.
tomorrow evening, we will kick off the Bhagavad Gita Para Vidya Shibira with the inaugural session at 5 p.m. Thank you.